Mr. Amir Taheri, thank you so very much for joining us for Kayhan Life today. What we are seeing inside Iran is an implosion and a regime that is has lost its legitimacy, whether it has been a revolutionary legitimacy or a legitimacy at the ballot box. And in a few days, Mr. Donald Trump is going to assume office again. He has already spoken about wanting to to negotiate with the Islamic Republic, whereas Mr. Khamenei is today basically in his speech said that there will be no negotiations with the United States. The United States is our enemy, the enemy of the Islamic Republic. So, how do you see uh, affairs in Iran, whether within the opposition to the Islamic Republic or inside the population? How is this going to change?
Well, what is surprising about Trump's re-election is that not only in the Islamic Republic, but elsewhere, in Europe, in Canada, in South America, many people are shaking in their pants, which shows, that whether you like it or not, the United States remains the only superpower left, the only attractive power across the globe, and that if you are on the side of its enemies, you are among the losers. So how Trump will use this power of the United States, this prestige that the United States has, I don't know. But his second administration looks more disciplined, better organized. It has a clearer vision than the first one. His priority is to end the war in Ukraine, to bring about change in Iran. How this change will come, I don't know, but it will definitely come, and to put the Middle East back on the track of that left to the peace of Abraham. These are his plans. So don't make any mistake. Mr. Khamenei knows that. Why? Because despite his huffing and buffing, today he just met the Iraqi prime minister to ask him to mediate between Tehran and Washington. And the Islamic media are openly writing about that. Said, "Well, we want Iraq, Japan, and Oman to mediate. Let us talk to America." All of them are, again, back to the tune. Let us talk to the America. But what are you going to talk about? This is the key question.
You talk about the Middle East. How do you see the events unfolding in that part of the world? Uh, what is Israel's position? What do you think will Israel be able to be the decision maker or the decisive element in what happens inside Iran or not?
Well, Israel has immense influence. There's no doubt about it. In the United States, because it has been a loyal friend and ally of the United States. It has been supported by all US administrations, sometimes reluctantly, for example, during Obama, but generally speaking, Israel, together with Iran under the Shah, were the two key allies of the US in the region. As for Arab states, I think it would be wrong to underestimate them because they have immense resources. At the same time, they also have a new generation of highly educated people. It's no longer like the old times. The first time I went to Saudi Arabia, um, even their diplomacy lacked enough trained people. They had to import people from Palestine, from Egypt, from other places. But now, they have invested heavily in the education of their children, as Iran did under the Shah, by sending tens of thousands to study abroad. At the same time, they have managed to resolve the differences that they had among themselves. For example, Saudi Arabia with Kuwait, with the United Arab Emirates, with Oman, even with Qatar, they have managed to solve these problems. So they can play a major role in reshaping the Middle East. Turkey is a bit of outsider because for almost 80 years it was outside the Islamic gyron, because of the Kemalism and so on. And Erdogan is a newcomer to this game. He is trying to learn the ropes. Egypt could become important again. Egypt again was knocked out by about 15 years because of the Arab Spring, but it is recovering and coming back. The big elephant in the room is, of course, Iran, because it is a major power in the region. It is the second largest country in the whole, the greater Middle East, the second in largest in terms of population, and cannot be ignored. The real question is how to bring this big elephant into the game. I think Trump has a few ideas, but I don't want to speculate about them at the moment.
Uh, there are murmurs from inside the regime, and that basically, although Mr. Khamenei rejects any direct negotiation with the United States, his heir, his son, the era of his son will be different. And it would be just similar to, these are the obviously the rumors that we are hearing, that it promises to be a game changer, the same way that Mohammed bin Salman changed the atmosphere of Saudi Arabia. How realistic do you think these hopes and aspirations for those who are spreading these rumors are?
But this is a false analogy because, first of all, the Islamic Republic is not the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which was created in 1932, owed its legitimacy to the creation of a state in the peninsula. Whereas the Khomeini's revolution that created the Islamic Republic destroyed the Iranian state that exists. So there is no dynastic legitimacy with Mr. Khamenei, whose own election as supreme leader was really a bit of a comedy. He was not elected; he was just pushed there because Khomeini died suddenly. They didn't know what to do, and so on. And his leadership has been disastrous so far. The second thing is that, from my understanding of Saudi Arabia, I went there first in 1969, before you were born. Um, at that time, I could easily see that the Saudi royal family was more progressive than the Saudi population, than the Saudi society. Who created the first girls' schools in Saudi Arabia? King Saud bin Abdulaziz. Who allowed the telephone, the television later, and so on, King Faisal. And who was controlling the extremists so that they wouldn't impose their harsh dictatorship? It was the government. Prince Salman, who is now King Salman, the father of Mohammed bin Salman. Um, as I traveled with him many times across Asia, Europe, America, and so on. I met him each time I went to Saudi Arabia. He was always more progressive than the average society, than Saudi society. Uh, he was looking for these reforms, and they have been doing this process of reform for a long time. Now it has accelerated because the seeds that they sowed have grown. Suddenly you have a new Western educated elite in Saudi Arabia, which they didn't exist. Poverty has disappeared in Saudi Arabia, whereas until, I don't even 10, 15 years ago, you would go to the neighborhood called Faisaliya in Riyadh, you would still see black poverty, mostly, of course, immigrants, workers, and so on, but nevertheless, there was. So the process that Mohammed bin Salman has become a symbol of is something that started from the beginning of the Saudi family. The founder of the Saudi kingdom, King Abdulaziz bin Saud himself crushed the fundamentalists in two big wars. One of them was the Battle of Mohanna, which he, I don't know, killed thousands of Khomeini-like Wahhabis to prevent them from bullying the societies of Hijaz, which was relatively less strict in its Islam and was more diverse and so on. So uh, it's not comparable at all. The Khamenei is a symbol of reaction, of retrograde politics. The Saudi family was quite the contrary.
You have said that all the elements for regime change from inside Iran are present on the Iranian landscape. Um, what would be your recommendations to the international community? How can the international community support the people's aspiration for change of regime in Iran?
Well, I don't think there is anything called international community. There are many different countries with different interests and different agendas, and I wouldn't uh, second the destiny of my people to say a fiction like international community. I don't care. They do whatever they like. What all I'm asking is that don't help a moribund regime. Don't help a regime that is bad for you and bad for the Iranian people. I don't want you to invade Iran and put, I don't know, one of your, how shall I say, homemade leaders as our leader. I don't want you to boycott Iran or impose sanctions. I just don't help them. But they have all been helping them, and they are still, some of them, helping this regime. This has been bad for you, and this has been bad for me. Imagine another Iran, an Iran which existed before, which was your friend, which was your partner. This Iran is the only biggest part of the world market which is still outside the world market. If Iran goes back to being Iran, it will be a market of $3 or $4 trillion. Everybody can benefit. There would be no wave of refugees as you warn us if this regime changes. As you can see, Bashar al-Assad fell, Syrians are going back. In the past 3 weeks alone, 300,000 have gone back. Iranians will also go back. They will not come out of Iran. So, all these excuses that, we have to help, we have to go cautiously, not to create a refugee tsunami, not to allow a spread of terrorism. This regime has been beaten. It has been defeated everywhere. It has nothing to say. It cannot go anywhere. It is a dead horse. So don't bank on it. This is all we wanted. And don't try to create fake leaders for us.
How can governments in the United States, in Europe, in America, sorry, governments in America, whether it's Canada, the United States, or in Europe, Britain, Germany, France, how can they help, support those Iranians outside a resident in their territory to help Iranians back home?
Well, first of all, by doing no harm to them, by allowing them to continue their struggle as they did, in the case of opponents of the Soviet Union. They showed respect for them, they received them, they talked to them, they listened to them, they helped spread their message. Why was Radio Liberty created by them? Why was the Voice of America was created? Why was the BBC created in so many languages? And according to the charter, uh, one of their missions is the spread of people's rule. This is what they have to do according to their own laws. Um, as for the Iranian diaspora, so many of them are citizens of the countries where they live. So, they should be treated as citizens and listened to. Actually, fortunately, their vote is becoming important in many countries. Some of Iranians have been elected to various parliaments all over the world, including the United States. So it's a multi-layered answer that I have to say. You cannot treat all of them the same way. But um, in the United States, for example, especially from Obama administration, they pick those Iranians who, for different reasons, support the Islamic Republic. They did it deliberately. Uh, and I can't say that all of them were agents of the Islamic Republic or they were paid by the Islamic Republic. Maybe they really believed that this is the government of Iran and we should support it in the name of no war on Iran, no things like that. But they never had a working relationship with the opponents of the Islamic regime. And working relationship means just listening to them, talking to them. Nobody wants money for you from you, or nobody wants you to do any possible, I don't know, favor to them, but just listen to them. In the case of the Mujahideen of people in the US, they gain also some kudos and could have their voice heard because they entered the American political system and helped some senators and congressmen get reelected. For example, Senator Bob Torricelli of New Jersey told me a few years ago, I said, why do you support Mujahideen? He said, because they support me. The day of the election, they are my foot soldiers. They spread my leaflets. They go and bring the voters in their cars to vote for me. They are American citizens. They are helping me. And in turn, I'm helping them. So, it is a sort of mixed picture. It's not, there are Iranians who thought that if they influence the American government not to be harsh on Iran, they are helping the Iranian people who are suffering from sanctions and who are suffering from isolation and so on. They had good intentions, but sometimes the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Others, like the Mujahideen, they offered the service in return. They received the attention needed. But the mass of Iranians who were unorganized, ideologically and organizationally, they were left outside. But now they are coming inside. They are becoming the uh, real force that could decide the future of Iran's relations with the countries where Iranians have their diaspora now.
So, and how can they are getting more organized, these masses who were not organized before. So, what can these governments do to support them?
Well, they are getting organized, and it is not, for example, in Britain where you are, several of our compatriots have, they met the Prime Minister Theresa May, they met Boris Johnson when he was Foreign Secretary, they met Deputy Foreign Secretary, they meet lots of members of Parliament and House of Lords and so on. In France too, there is this contact which is becoming organized and taking shape, and therefore these governments are hearing different voices. They no longer hear only the Mujahideen or only those who sympathize with the Khomeini's regime for different reasons. A third voice is also being heard, which is the voice of the Iranian people, which says what? Which says that the majority of Iranians are unhappy with the present regime. They want regime change. They want to be your friends, as we were before, and it is in your own interest to help us achieve this passage from the present regime to another regime.
Well, thank you so very much, Mr. Taheri, for giving us your time, and I hope we have the pleasure of having you with us in the very near future.
Thank you very much.